Hello, I'm Dan Rather, and welcome to the CBS Evening News Online edition. Just ahead, suicide airliner hijackings. A newly released report shows authorities were warned of the possibility prior to 9/11. We'll look at why more wasn't done and why this was kept secret for so long. Also, is one of America's most crucial nuclear weapons testing programs getting enough scrutiny? Our whistleblower investigation continues in tonight's Inside Story. Also, millions of potential jurors have learned a lot about crime solving from the hit TV series CSI. But what happens when they get into real courtrooms? It's all starting now on the CBS Evening News Online edition. Even now, it turns out the government has yet to tell the public everything it knew about terror warnings before the September 11th attack on America. Previously kept secret, newly disclosed sections of a report by the 9/11 Commission indicate there were dozens of warnings passed on to the Federal Aviation Administration, including some about airliners' suicide hijackings. The public still has not been told everything the government knew about this, but CBS's Bob Orr has some new details on what the government did and didn't know and what it did and didn't do before 9/11.
In the summer of 2001, airlines, Congress, and the FAA were all worried.
We've been waiting here for hours
about congestion and delays. But the 9/11 Commission says federal aviation officials should have been focused on a more deadly threat. A heavily blacked out report, held since August and just released by the Bush administration, reveals the FAA received 52 intelligence warnings mentioning al-Qaeda and/or Osama bin Laden in the months leading up to September 11th. 5 of the alerts focused on terrorist training for hijackings, and 2 concerned suicide missions, though not involving airplanes.
I'm saying the FAA failed, as Congress failed, as intelligence agencies failed.
Tim Romer, a member of the 9/11 Commission, says the persistent warnings should have triggered alarm.
Increasingly, there were concerns about something domestically, and that domestic activity might include some kind of a suicide hijacking.
The FAA did warn airlines terrorists may attempt a suicide hijacking, but then also stated, fortunately, we have no indication that any group is currently thinking in that direction. Officials did not tighten airport security or hire more air marshals, explaining the warnings were too vague.
The FAA did not have any credible, any specific information which indicated the type of attack we saw on September 11th was planned or even possible within the United States.
It's not clear that beefed up security would have stopped the attacks, since the knives the hijackers carried were legal at the time.
Most of the hijackers were flagged by the profiling system. Many of them were stopped at checkpoints. Some of the bags were looked at.
That system, I don't think, did work. When 19 out of 19 people can scam the system, beat the system, and end up hijacking these planes.
The system now has been tightened. Billions spent to secure airports and planes. But critics ask why it took 9/11 to force the changes, and whether what's been done is enough to defeat the threat. Bob Orr, CBS News, Washington.
The government denies it is the result of a CBS News investigation, but confirmed tonight it did send experts to check the wells and other problems at the Nuclear Weapons Research Lab at Los Alamos. Those were shown on this broadcast earlier. Tonight, the lab investigator who first told CBS News about those problems now says he's troubled about a part of the lab they refused to show him at all. CBS's Cheryl Atkinson gives you the inside story.
Don Brown was hired by Los Alamos in 2003 to attack quality problems at the lab. It's not just what he saw that disturbed him, it's what he didn't see.
ESA and DX areas are there, and ESA areas where the tritium facility is.
The top secret X division, arguably the most important and powerful division at the lab. If the X division sounds familiar, it might be from past scandals. It's where the government claims China obtained secrets for a most sophisticated nuclear warhead, where 2 computer hard drives with sensitive nuclear weapons data disappeared. And the X division is the source of the physics behind our nuclear weapons, where some of the best scientists in the world do their most important work. Brown was stunned to find no evidence the X division had ever been audited properly. When his team got the assignment, they didn't even get a foot in the door when an X division manager blocked them.
He said, "You can't come in. We don't recognize your authority."
Is it proper that the group being audited gets to tell the auditor, you have no authority and we're not going to let you come in?
Absolutely not.
In the end, lab managers didn't get Brown's team in either. They were only allowed to review paperwork off-site. Even at that, they concluded the system might not capture items that may pose a potential safety problem, and lapses in training and qualifications put the effectiveness of the nuclear weapons program at risk. He laid out his concerns in reports sent to the lab and Energy Department officials. Today, U.S. nukes are no longer tested in full-scale explosions, making it all the more critical, Brown argues, that the X Division's work gets proper scrutiny. Without it,
You can't say with confidence that those weapons will perform their design function.
energy officials wouldn't agree to an interview, but point out that the nuclear stockpile is certified every year and any potential issues are thoroughly investigated. Brown says certification is one safeguard, but no substitute for a hard look at the whole process. He considers the X Division audit that didn't happen an issue of national security. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News, Los Alamos, New Mexico.
If there's any doubt about the power of television, well, we have some new evidence for you. CBS's Vince Gonzalez shows you how one of the most popular crime dramas is influencing real criminal justice system acts in tonight's Eye on America.
3 nights a week, the heroes of CSI use high-tech tools to catch the crooks.
Whoever he is, let's find him, okay?
More than 60 million Americans watch the shows, which air on this network. That's millions of potential jurors hooked on forensic science. And that impacts real crime fighters who call it the CSI effect.
Jurors now expect us to have a DNA test for just about every case. They expect us to have the most advanced technology possible, and they expect it to look like it does on television.
In Astoria, Oregon, District Attorney Josh Marquis says jurors want CSI quality science in the courtroom on his budget.
Do you have access to same-day DNA tests?
Never.
Same-day toxicology reports?
Never.
Tox came back positive.
The nearest crime scene investigators are 2 hours away, where Beth Carpenter, director of the forensics lab, says they're feeling the CSI effect too.
Our analysts are being expected to do much more than what we actually have the capability of doing.
There's a profound impact in the country in terms of jurors because of the show.
We met Anthony Zeiker, the creator of the CSI franchise, in the morgue on the set of CSI New York.
Fake body.
There is some fudging for dramatic purposes, but
all of the science is accurate, and we have real CSIs on staff that help us write the scripts and make sure everything is, executed perfectly.
Which he says is good for the justice system.
The CSI effect is, in my opinion, the most amazing thing that's ever come out of the series. People know science now. They watch CSI.
The judge in Astoria says that's a plus.
It raises the expectation for the police officers so they do better investigations, or they should, because if not, they're going to lose cases.
But not every case has slam-dunk scientific proof, and that worries prosecutors.
Jurors have come back and said there was no DNA test, and without that, I'm not convinced.
Baltimore prosecutors blame the CSI effect when jurors acquitted this man of murder, even though there were 2 eyewitnesses.
What was the jury thinking?
Thank you.
This prosecutor always asks jurors if they watch CSI.
I want them to know that this is a TV program that is based on reality, but is not reality.
But don't ignore the actual knowledge of the science, because that is real.
And so is the popularity of CSI. So stay tuned for more TV shows where the good guys wear white lab coats. In Hollywood, I'm Vince Gonzalez for Eye on America.
More stories are just a click away. But be sure to join me on television for the on-air edition of the CBS Evening News. On Friday's broadcast, some smokers get a big surprise from their city, a huge tax bill for online cigarette purchases. If you think buying cigarettes on the internet is tax-free, wait till you see the Friday Consumer Alert. For CBSNews.com, I'm Dan Rather.